What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the trading world. Guys, I'm not gonna lie, I almost didn't make this video, but I think it's important that these videos come out every single day because if they can provide value to anyone, then it's worth it for me to make them. So with that, we're gonna review the market in general. Today was the day before NFP. So we had, typically people do not like the price action on the day before NFP. I actually found today to be very, very precise and interesting. So yeah, if you guys like this type of content, definitely consider subscribing, leaving a like, following me on Twitter, and checking out my completely free Discord. The link to that is in my bio. So let's talk about what we had going on. So London, you can see the London session, that's from 2 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock in the morning, ends up making high of the day. So when this happens, a lot of time we can expect New York to continue this opposite direction, right? So London, reversal, New York, continuation. London makes high of the day, and then we continue. And one thing you'll know is actually if we measure out this range here, check this out. Project out the range to the high, and you can see that first standard deviation hits that high of London pretty well. So, okay, then we end up getting SMT going into 9 a.m. So this is, right around when I get on the charts. We have, I think some kind of news came out right here. So we have SMT. By the way, this is SMT with the rejection block. You see this? So this is the model that Powell trades. So you guys may or may not have seen Powell talk about this, but he'll take a rejection block, which is a wick. You see how we create this wick here, and we sweep out all these highs. Well, this wick, with SMT, right? So this wick sweeps out all these highs with SMT. This wick is going to be very, very sensitive. You see this wick, how sensitive this ends up being? So we sweep out all these highs with SMT. Once again, a rejection block that sweeps out highs is a higher probability rejection block. So if you don't know, a rejection block is literally just a wick, right? We wick above those highs with SMT, and we close that down below. So this rejection block, the way that Powell takes these rejection block trades, so this is literally the Phoenix model, where you enter at the rejection block, stop at the high of the rejection block, and guys, look at that. Look at that, man. So that's the way Powell does his trades, and you can see how powerful that can be, right? That's literally the Phoenix model, and I made a video on the Phoenix model, but I actually did it wrong. So the video I made on the Phoenix model is kind of my own interpretation of it, but it's not the actual Phoenix model. Literally all the Phoenix model is an SMT and a rejection block. That is it. So all you got to do is wait for SMT, wait for us to wick above a high, and close below, and then just enter at the wick, and then boom, right? Very, very cool trade. Now, hopefully that made sense. Anyway, you can see pretty clearly here that this ends up being accumulation. All this is accumulation, right? We're just generating liquidity, meaning the market consolidates, getting people who don't know what they're doing to enter the market. We manipulate the high, so we induce people to go long. That's the market. The market is inducing people to go long with SMT here. And then what happens? Distribution. So you see how the market is constantly moving in terms of accumulation, manipulation, and then distribution. So very, very cool. Now, how could you have taken a trade here? Well, personally, I like this 5-minute change day delivery where you could just enter on the close. And you could target, you had this liquidity pool here, right? So I actually measured this out badly. See how perfectly we run down to this liquidity pool? See how perfectly we hit that? So if you guys don't know, measure these ranges out, and they're going to tell you where the liquidity pool is. This is the fixed range volume profile tool. You measure it out. It's going to tell you exactly where the liquidity pool is. So anyway, we draw all the way back, all the way down there. Once again, I liked entering on the change state delivery here. 5-minute change state delivery. And then since I'm entering on the close, I would not put stop all the way at the high. But the important thing is detect the accumulation, manipulation, distribution, and then pick your entry. Look at that, guys. Genuinely crazy. Obviously, you know, I don't shoot for that high RR, right? I just shoot for, you know, simple, like 1, 2, 3R, right? But I'm just showing, you know, how much potential there is in these markets. So anyway, where do we end up going? We go down perfectly to rebalance to this gap. So this is the opening of the and the close of the new day. So this gap is very sensitive and it wants to be filled. So it's a void of orders. There's a void of orders, so it's going to want to rebalance to this void of orders. You can literally see this is a gap between the close and the open. So new day opening gap. See how perfectly we react off of that high, and then as well react off of the close here. So here's that new day opening gap, and then as well dropping down a lower time frame, we have our first presented fair value gap. Once again, guys, do you remember this when I was talking about it earlier? Right, this first presented fair value gap is incredibly sensitive, and based off of how it gets respected is going to tell you a lot about the day. So the first presented fair value gap is the first gap that forms after 9:30, and it cannot include the 929 candle. So it would be 9:30, 9:31, 9:32. Here's that first presented fair value gap. And look at how we respect that, guys. Genuinely so cool. Look at how perfect the market is, right? So if I want to take a trade off of this, well, once again, this is also a 15-minute gap. So this is a flow state. Well, I guess it's not. It's a 5-minute gap. So 5-minute fair value gap. And then 30-second change state delivery. Here you can see there's the 30-second change state delivery. Once again, here's that first presented fair value gap. As a confluence, right? This is a confluence. So if we reject this, it's going to give us really nice bias for the rest of the day. And you can see that that's exactly what happens. We end up rejecting this first presented fair value gap. So here's the 30-second change state delivery. Once again, respecting the new day opening gap as well. And yeah, 30-second change state delivery. Look how perfectly we backtest it. As well, this is a 2022 model, right? Because we sweep out these highs, break structure, we retest the fair value gap. So once again, sweep, break of structure, fair value gap here. See how perfectly we retest that? Bang, 2022 gap. So then what happens? We expand lower, down to what? Our liquidity pool that we just talked about, right? So here's that 30-second change state delivery with that 15-minute gap. And well, I guess 5-minute gap, 30-second change state delivery. So 5-minute fair value gap. And then 30-second change state delivery. And look at how perfectly all the standard deviations get hit, guys. Look how perfectly all these standard deviations get hit. First standard deviation gets hit. Second, third, fourth, fifth. Once again, this is kind of where your max extension is, but we do continue to go lower. So the way you take this is, enter on the retest or at the 2022 gap. So enter on the retest here, stop above the high, and then go lower. Do you see how this ends up being, obviously you scale out through here, right? But do you see how this ends up being accumulation, manipulation, and then distribution? Yeah, genuinely so many fascinating things. Like this is also an inverse for value gap, because we had a gap here and then we closed below it. You see that? Bang. Inverse for value gap. And then we continue lower. So sick, right? So yeah, guys, genuinely, in my opinion, there's always opportunity in the market. You just have to know where to look, and I really do think that there is always opportunity. Another cool thing is, look at this gap right here, right? Pay attention to, we have this gap between this low and this high. And where do we go fill back to, right? That 15-minute gap. Actually, you could probably maybe draw it out like this. So 15-minute for value gap. And then look for 1-minute change state delivery. You can see that happens right here. As well, what happens, right? Sweep liquidity. Sweep liquidity. Break of structure. And then for value gap. So this is the 2022 model right here. You see that? And so once again, it's both 2022 model and 1-minute change state delivery. So anyway, 1-minute change state delivery. And then, yeah, we continue much lower off of that, right? Just measuring out standard deviations. 1, 2, 3, all these get hit, right? All the way, wow, perfectly to the 8th standard deviation. That's crazy. Genuinely insane, guys. The markets are so precise. Like, it's genuinely beautiful. Yeah. Guys, my best recommendation is just go in the charts, observe the markets, and see what what you notice, and over time you start to realize things, right? Very, very cool stuff here. And yeah, I mean, just very, very aggressive downward day, right? Once again, London made high of the day, so New York goes lower. And yeah, I think I'm gonna end it here. Hopefully this video was helpful or you found it interesting. I'll see you guys later. Peace out.